What's going on, everyone? Sid Gordon here today with the Core Medical Podcast, and longtime dear friend, family friend, love him to death, Michael Johnson. Been close for quite some time, and thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah, what's going on? Thanks for having me.
I was just sitting here, and you have a seasoned vet when they say, "Hey, man, my card's sold out. Must be a good card. I don't even know who's on it." So,
Yeah, 14 years in the UFC, I have no idea who's on this card. I just been training to fight, but you've known me since my whole career, pretty much.
yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think there's been a lot of change in those 14 years in you, and we've watched each other kind of grow up a little bit, and the things that were important 14 years ago aren't so important now, and I'm kind of a little bit embarrassed about some of them. But
Yeah, but they're in the past, so it was good though. It's good times, and it's
so it's interesting. I've seen you over the last 5 or 6 years, especially kind of change your demeanor during camp, outside of camp, to kind of doing your own thing. And one thing we talk about in this podcast quite a bit for our patients, our listeners, is routine and being like in the groove and stuff. Can you talk about like how important that is for you, both like during fight camp, out of fight camp, and like in life in general?
yeah. So I would say early in my career, it never was like the routine was kind of fucked up. It was train, fight, and then go on a vacation or party. Not so much party, but I'm on a vacation partying for a few weeks or whatever, training a little bit, doing this, spending money until my next fight. Then I would go into another training camp and do this routine for, the first like 8 to 10 years of my career, and I've noticed that it hasn't really went the way I've wanted. It hasn't been, great and everything. So something had to change. And the last like 5 or 6 years, you said you noticed a change, and it's been that. There's no more long vacations. There's no more going out like traveling or like partying or anything like that. It's all set aside. I can, don't care to do it the rest of my life. It's very important that my training comes first. My rest comes second, and then I'm getting to my nutrition, and everything is right. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's it. I think the big thing for me is I became like a student of the game again. Mm-hmm. I took a step back. I said, okay, yeah, I have 14 years in the UFC. I've been fighting for 16 years or so, and maybe I need to just be another student and just come back in, get all these long classes, go to the beginner classes, kind of just pick up things that I know already, but I need to keep practicing.
Yep.
And that routine has stuck with me for the last few years, and it lets you kind of forget about all the life things if you can stick on a routine and have something focused on.
Yep.
You're really not so worried about having to get things done if you can just keep your mind on the track.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm like routine driven, especially Monday through Friday. With running my businesses and having kids and so on and so forth, you really don't have that much of a choice. If you want to stay successful, you kind of have to have that routine in place. I mean, it's funny. They make fun of me. They're like, "Oh, I know exactly where you are every hour of the day," because it's just my demeanor. What would you say, like, from the time you get up, without giving away any special sauce, from the time that you get up during your fight camp, can you give us an idea, like, what that looks like because there's a lot of people out there that have never even thought about what that looks like, to be able to, like, be a 1%er, to be in the UFC as a 1%er. You've been in there, in the top ratio of most fighters don't last more than 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
It's been a long road. So what does it look like for you, like, when you get up in the morning during your fight camp? Like, can you give us an idea, like, what like a normal and a gruesome day look like?
Yeah. So okay, for instance, like a Tuesday, like a spar day. Like Tuesdays and Thursdays are our big important days, especially to me. I think that's the closest thing to a fight that we can practice. Is spar. Like whatever else you can do, just go spar. Like if that goes fine, then you'll be okay. So it's early mornings, waking up, 7 o'clock, having to walk the damn dog, Pablo, and I unfortunately I live in an apartment right now, so I have to take his little fat ass, walk him down the steps, 3 flights of steps, because he's got the limp. He can't really.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I've watched him.
Yeah, he's an old man, and yeah, so I do that, and then I get up, get him back, feed him. Then I got to make a big breakfast for myself, and that time, I just listen to some music or turn the TV on, just kind of relax, get my mind ready for the day. And then after that, it's supplements and vitamins, and it's like 15 vitamins in the morning. I got to stay on top of that, which I have noticed. I don't want to mention getting into my age, I guess. I'm 37. I don't look 37. But I have noticed that I'm like, oh, shit, this is kind of important.
It's fucking important, bro.
To really get supplements in and every day, and no matter how many it is, like, I have to do it. So I've noticed that big difference with me.
That 1%, like anything what I've noticed, and I'm obviously not a professional fighter, but anything that gives you like 1% more edge is worth taking the time and staying consistent with.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, I've noticed that with a lot of you guys, the NFL guys are just like constantly looking for something new to like help them give them that edge. But sorry.
And it's crazy. I was thinking about that the other day. It's like, you take these vitamins, you take these supplements all the time, and it's like you don't see shit happening. Like you might feel a little bit of it, but you think in your mind, hey, this is being good. This is, I guess, mind over matter is working better on it. So I do that, and then I'm in the gym 9 o'clock. Warming up, getting ready to spar. Like today, we did about 11 3-minute rounds. Hard sparring. Yeah, like 3.
How many guys are on the mat right now over there in the morning?
So Killcliff is booming right now with a bunch of great fighters. I think this morning it was close to 50, maybe around that.
And are you rotating rounds, or is it 25 straight? Is it 3 straight?
It's
11?
straight. So we'll do like 3-minute like kickboxing rounds, then we'll switch to MMA rounds, get 3 of those, and then we'll get back to kickboxing. So we'll kind of mix it up. We're getting different partners and different looks. And I always make a joke about our gym. It's like, yeah, it's just like the world. It's like a world map. Like wherever you want to go, you can get that training. Like if you want to go to Russia and go, wrestle with these guys. Like we have a group of them on this side.
Exactly.
If you want to get with strikers from like some island, you got Jamaicans over here. You got so it's everything. You got the Dutch kickboxers on one side. So it's just a crazy environment over there.
I mean, I've gone and seen you guys spar in the evenings before, and to those guys out there, if you think watching a UFC fight is exciting, you should go watch a freaking sparring session at Killcliff, because you have like legitimately 25 UFC fights going on at the same fucking time. And there's dudes there. I kind of compare some of the guys there to like a college football player, to where they're like they weren't, but now they kind of are playing for money. They had something to like freaking prove, and you get some kid who's like new in the game, and they get paired up with MJ, and it's like, oh dude, like I need to fucking like show this dude like I can hang. So these guys they ain't fighting for a few $100,000. They're fighting just to get on the map. They'll do anything, so it's like a lot of aggression. It's super cool. So sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. It's crazy you mentioned that, because a lot of the good fighters are unknown as well. So you got a lot of these up and coming kids that are just crazy good. So you guys will see them soon.
Yeah.
Coming up, but yeah, so after that, man, it's just crazy hard, sparring session. And then I try to recover, get some food in me, get some rest, right away, and right back to another session, whether that be technique, like 4:30 to 5:30, and then we do some ground stuff. Or like, for instance, today I'm going to go swim. I'm about 3 weeks out from my fight, so I need the work, but I don't want to break my body down a lot. So I have noticed that swimming has been extremely helpful for me, for my shoulders. I've had shoulder problems.
Yeah,
It's helped that. It's helped my ligaments and everything. Cardio, it's good for a body workout, and big advocate of it.
So when by the time you get, so there's like a peak session, and the reason why I'm asking this is because I asked a bunch of our patients like what they wanted to hear from you on, and it was kind of more like behind the scenes stuff, right? So, I competed in jits quite a bit back in the day, and when I would know I had a tournament coming up, there'd be like this loading phase, and then like a peak phase, and then like more like a recovery cardiovascular. When I'm 2 weeks out, it's like I want my cardio like through the freaking roof. It's a lot of technique prior. hard training before. Is that similar with like your style of fighting, with your style of training?
Yeah, so typically, okay, so for this fight, I sign a fight maybe if I'm lucky 2 months out. That's a great time, 2 months. In the sport, that's a lot of time to get ready. Usually you're getting
You get a phone call tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow. Hey, you got to fight in a few weeks? Yeah, of course. Michael will always fight. Yeah, no problem. As long as I can spar, get in and get a fight.
Yeah.
But usually it's like eight weeks. So that's a pretty good time, and I'll probably have because we're training all year round. So that's one thing I have noticed, and a lot of people don't realize, like, there's no off season, like, for fighting.
But there used to be kind of. I remember back in the day, like, a guy would fight, and then you wouldn't see or hear from him for like a few months, and they start training. Like, they train to fight, and then they kind of like disappear. Like,
just like how I said in the beginning.
Yeah, like the Chuck Liddell days and shit. They'd like train like 2 months and go beat the shit out of each other and start over again.
So I'm. For so many generations in the UFC I've been a part of, and I was a little bit a part of that, and that's what I watched and noticed. So that's what I kind of did. I was like, I'll fight and I'll just relax until I get another fight.
Yeah.
So it worked in that generation. Next generation, it's not really working.
Are so athletic.
This generation is not working. These kids are exactly. It's athletes coming into the fight game.
Yeah.
Back then it was fighters. Very few athletes.
Well, it's like back when the UFC first started, you had a Gracie who trained jiu-jitsu every single day, whether he was competing or not. Yeah. So when he would get in the ring back in the day, he had such great like training conditions, and he was always so on point, like year round, that like it was just another day for him. The other guys are like planning for this shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so like that's
100%.
kind of, and I mean, he was obviously tapping out dudes that were 3 times his weight. It was crazy, but he was also amazing. But
that's good. But so I'll get a contract to sign for a fight, and usually myself, I know the type of person I am. Like, if I'm going day in, day out training, I need like to relax and get like an adjustment, or maybe like go out and have a few drinks or something. So I'll do that almost like in a celebration for my fight contract.
Okay.
Get it out of my system. I don't want to fight with my demons for fucking 2 months, because if you're like me, a lot of people might be,
especially if you're a fighter.
Yeah, exactly. We got a few demons we fight, but so I'll do that, and then I'll slowly get into training. I'll slowly start really focusing on weights, building up my cardio, maybe going, 3 rounds instead of 4 or 5, and then just build. And I always stick to the training. It's 2 days, 2 times a day, no matter what, and start getting my runs in, and then towards the month,
How much you
start
running?
picking it up. I'll run Sundays, and I'll do like a Park Hill. Me and a good friend Jason Jackson, Bellator, champ. He's been doing like a routine down at Vista View Park, and we'll run around that. So it's about like 6 miles, and then we'll do hills up and down. Then I'll grab the bike and run it out. So I've been focused on building endurance and stamina this fight. Fighting for as long as I can, like no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So focus on that. Focus on a lot of wrestling. And then I'll pull back a little bit, so I'll get a lot of training and really like beat my body to shit almost. And then probably take a few days off, let my body heal, let it recover for one last big push. That way I know that I'm peaking around like 2 weeks out before a fight. So around this time is my peak time. So I'll slowly get into it, and hopefully fight week it'll be right there.
Can you tell, like, during that peak time, what you need to do the last 3 weeks before that fight? Because I know that last 3 weeks is like super, super important, because if you overdo it or underdo it, there's like that threshold, right?
Yeah. Well, around this time, around the 3 to 2 week time, you gotta start adjusting weight. The diet comes in more. You're not eating as much. You're not taking in a lot of calories. So you gotta really get around that, and also train.
So your training's not overcompensating for the amount of food you're taking in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're gonna, you come in training at 180, 175, and now you're training at 170, 168. It's a big difference to get through an hour and a half of practice, at our gym.
Yeah, so that leads me to the next question. One of the other questions that I got for you today was, how the hell do you go from 180 to 155? And I tell everyone this. I've worked with quite a few fighters throughout the years. Friends with a bunch of them, and I've seen quite a few people fail on the weight cut. Right? You've never even come close to it because that's part of the mission for you. A lot of people lose sight of how important that is.
It's the first thing you got to do.
And I thought I heard this saying, I think probably about 10 years ago. The fight isn't in the weight cut, the fight is on the mat, right? So if you're having a really hard time cutting weight, it's probably not the right place for you to be, right? And it's a dangerous thing too. Do you want to talk about how you do it so easily? I mean, I don't know if you make it look easy because you don't complain, but
behind the scenes, I bitch quite a bit.
Do you? Yeah, I'm sure. I remember.
Oh yeah, in Florida, we were there. Yeah, he's in Orlando.
Yeah,
I was bitching about nutritionist eating the whole time. I go crazy because that way I came in, I was a little bit heavy, so I had to wake up, wait the fight day morning and cut. I usually don't have to cut in the morning.
Yeah.
I usually cut it, at night. That way I can wake up and just go weigh
float
on the scale.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well,
so.
I can tell you, if you are allowed inside MJ's hotel room within 48 hours of a fight, he loves you. It's a very difficult place to get into because he's in this not a weird zone. He's in his zone, and you walk in and it's just like he has got like everything organized. Like it's this like layer and shit's like the bat layer and stuff.
It's my cave.
He's got his cave going there, and it's like. He's got to have his feet up before the fight and like the whole 9 yards.
Smiling and cussing everybody out because I'm hungry.
Exactly. And then after that, it's like a big family meal. And it's great. It's a great experience. I love to go and see these fights, and it's cool. And it's hard. You're in the stand, and I love you to death, obviously, and there's people around you, and they're like, "This motherfucker must be friends with that dude." Because like, I'm like anybody who's like rooting for the opponent, I'm like, "Motherfucker, I'll see you in the parking lot." It's crazy.
Always, my family and my support always. It's like, hey, we'll fight outside and inside. It's like, up.
MJ has a family member who's a female. Who is like the coolest cat in the world, and I don't really want to blow her up, but I'm in the stage, I'm in the audience, and we were in, I think that maybe was in Orlando too, and I'm screaming and yelling. All of a sudden, I hear this screeching, rah, like going nuts, and all of a sudden she's like, "Sid," and like jumps over like 10 dudes to come watch you fight with me. And I was like, "This girl's crazy, bro." She's like turning around telling people to shut the fuck up. I'm like, "Dude, it's so crazy." And your mom's sitting there holding the baby with
just
headphones.
like, oh
yeah,
there you are.
And like that's where you get your cool comments from because she has like not a care in the world. She just knows everything's always going to be all right. Like that lady's going straight to heaven, bro. And it's just a crazy dynamic of like being with the Johnson family for a fight,
Hearts are so big, but it's always a little temper with them.
It is, and then you got Drew over there, who's just like another level, bro. He's another level.
Yeah, 100%. Shout out Drew for sure. So it's definitely important to have like that big support group. Like you guys when you come to the fights, when everybody comes to the fights. You feel that you want to fight a little harder, and it's good to have love around. True love, because especially in this game, it's filled with so much fake bullshit.
Well, I can relate a little bit too. So like, I went through this growth stage where I was like coming up in the entrepreneurial world, and then all of a sudden I like figured my shit out, right? And I launched. Like I did real well, and all of a sudden there's like dudes around me, like, wow. What the fuck is this dude doing here? You know what I mean? Like,
where'd you come from?
Where'd you come from? And then, it takes you some time, right? Because you and I probably have done real stupid things with our money, taking people along for the ride that didn't even deserve it. If we had back all that money, we probably wouldn't have to work anymore, right? So, which is it's reality.
Yeah, I'd be looking at retirement and instead of looking at 10 more years.
Exactly. Like. So the reality of it is like you get to this point where you're just like, all right. I like to judge like Jax, my fiance. If I was broke, she'd probably be hanging around still. She's got good family morals. She's a good girl. Have I had girls in my life that have been around, would be around if I didn't have any money? Fuck yeah, probably a lot, right? So the reality of it is that like we going through the process, I believe that success really comes from your immediate circle, that energy. No such thing as being like a self-made cat. even though like I can't be in the ring with you and you can't be on a sales floor with me or building a business with me, like that energy outside of work like helps a man grow. And for you, it's real hard because you're just, celebrity, the whole 9 yards. And you have to figure out who, because for you, that energy is a big thing, right?
Yeah,
It's a freaking, it's a big thing. And if I'm draining you as a female or a male, you can't fight right. How do you determine who is around you these days and who isn't? For me, I have this new thing there. I just don't want any new fucking personalities in my life, guys. So like, unless you're bringing a shitload to the table, don't bother me. But like, how do you determine that?
I'm about the same at this point.
Yeah.
It's and the fight game, it's kind of crazy. And the thing is, like, you have people around you where, around while you're building up and coming up, so you can kind of see in that point, like, who's going to really be around you, because there's not much.
No.
Like, there's nothing when I'm first starting to fight, whether it be girl, female, whatever, and maybe people are along the ride because it's fun, UFC fights and you're big and the experience is a good time. And then here's the bad thing about athletes and sports and competition, unfortunately some people lose, and, that slope could be really fucking slippery, and those people start to fade off. So, you can get it real big, just like for my instance, I'll talk about it. I was top 5 in the world at one point, so everything was looking really good and looking great. I lose a few fights and having bad energy around me, and maybe I'm not, like, I don't have a lot of, like, cool friends, or I'm not doing as much anymore. Maybe I'm not hanging out with these people, maybe because I'm not doing as much anymore. So they're like, okay, well, I don't want to go hang out with them, or you stop hearing from these people.
I can relate.
Yeah. So then you kind of learn and you see that. And then at this point you get to a point like me yourself. I'm like, I'm just fine with being with my inner circle and just being by myself most of the time. Like, I don't want any bad energy around me or things that I can't really see.
Yeah. I mean, for my, for like what I've kind of figured out over the last, like, especially like 4 or 5 years since I had Juliet, like, it's crazy. I was thinking back, I was like, how many people used to call me and be like, hey, where are we going to dinner on fucking Friday night? I'm like, dude, I ain't fucking you. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like, where are we going to dinner? Get the hell out of here. Like, are you crazy? And like, now it's like, hey man, I'm at the house. If you want to come by and hang out with my family, great. Like, you're content with that. You come by all the time. My daughter just saw you here. She's like, MJ, ran up, freaking, gave you a huge hug. My family cares a lot about you. Jax, of course. And you see my kids grow up. You've seen Jada, Jordan, the whole 9 yards. We've known each other for over 15, 16 years now, just about. And, I watched you on the Ultimate Fighter show, and I was like, dude, it's crazy, because, like, I think I was a blue belt in jits, or maybe just about to be one. And I was like, wow, man, these guys are crazy. And then I met with Glenn, and we had a taste of doing some business together with the old coach of the old owner of the Black Zillions and stuff. And then we became close friends. But for me, it was like, holy fuck, like, I'm like hanging out with these cats. Like, this is crazy. And like, you guys are like superstars. Cause there's a phase with a civilian that gets into jiu-jitsu or like kickboxing. Like, I used to love to kickbox with Henry, obviously you do too. He's the fucking best in the world. And there's this amazing like feeling you get, but like, oh my God, you're starstruck. Like, if you just start in jits and you're watching like these fighters and stuff, you get starstruck. There's just no way, because it's a hobby you have and they're the fucking best at it, right? Yeah. And the thing is like, for me now, obviously I know a lot of celebrities, I know a lot of fighters, a lot of athletes. We all put our pants on the same, right? It's all we're all men. Yeah. We all put our pants on the exact same way. And for me, what's great is that we get to learn from each other. Like, we get a lot, you need something, I need something, we can talk about it. And it's two very different worlds, right? Like, your world is like, you're depending so much on your body staying healthy and this, that, and the other. And I take that shit for granted, right? Like, for me, I get hurt, it's like, all right, no big deal, right?
Yeah, I'm hurt as panic. It's like,
yeah, I know.
God damn it, like, I gotta sit out for 2 months or 2 weeks. I can't do this. I can't do that.
Right. That's where I was going. So like, not too long ago, I get a text message fuck, I just pulled my hamstring. Like, and I'm like, shit, I guess it's my problem now too. Like, tell me about it.
Yeah,
You know?
it is panic mode, you know.
It is.
And it was. And I did, it was like, I'm going to blow it up when I get to the fight. I'm going to tell people I just completely pulled it. But it was like a grade 1 or 2 sprain. And this goes back to like training. This is something that I've always done in the past. It's like I've always been really good at listening to my body. I'm like, if my body's tired, I'm not going to do anything. So we had a hard wrestling session on Wednesday. We do strength and conditioning Wednesday night. I have a great session that morning, and I'm at home. I'm like, I really don't feel like doing anything. Yeah, I was complaining about it all morning at practice too. Like, oh, I'm just going to wrestle. I'm going to get through. I'm going to just chill. Don't do anything. And then I get home, and I'm like, no, Michael, let's fucking do something different. Like, let's just go lift weights. Like, we're only lifting weights anyway, you know? And we share our conditioning gym with XPE, you know, all the combine guys are down here. So, unfortunately, that day, it was like the first or second day they just came in town, so they were using the weights. So we couldn't do it. So we had to warm up on ladders and do like sprint drills and things like that to kind of wake my legs up. And
you're not walking in the gym and walking back out.
No, yeah, I'm like, no, I've already taken my pre-workout. I'm like, fuck, like, we're gonna work out like for sure. And my strength and conditioning coach Corey Peacock is great at what he does. He's like, okay, we'll do something different. We'll just start warming up there. And this is in the middle of the warm up. And I guess I start feeling good. My adrenaline's going a little bit because all these fucking football players are here. So I'm like, I'm gonna show them I got skills on the ladder too. You know what I mean? Like I could run and sprint a little bit. And on the last drill, man, I get to the end and I'm like pulling up on a sprint and I just feel like a pop and pull and I'm like, I'm like, I look back down at the track. I'm like, see, this is why I should have fucking stayed at home. I just tore my fucking hamstring, and I'm like lifting around, like, oh my god, like it's torn. And me and Corey just sat there and we're kind of stretching it out. And then I think I text you literally probably like 30 minutes after.
Yeah.
And luckily, the XP guys hooked me up with a great not Cairo guy, but what am I thinking? A rehab guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sparred today, my bad.
That in the weed, okay.
Yeah, I know, right? Of course. So yeah, I got it. That's part of my rehab.
Okay, got you. I understand completely.
So a good rehab guy. I got a lot of good massages on it and just paid a lot of attention to it and started the pool, biked a lot, and 4 or 5 days it was better, and now we're like 2 weeks away from that injury, and now I'm back to 100%. So
that's
but
great.
that was the thing where I couldn't really like wrestle. Like I had to take off of wrestling for like all week. I had to take 2-3 days off of rest. So that time that you miss is a lot, because that's 6
days,
6 sessions a day, damn near. I mean, you know what I mean? Like 4 or 5 days, 2 to 3 sessions a day. That's a lot of sessions.
Well, it adds up too, especially when your opponent probably is getting after it as hard as that person can too. You know what I mean? You're always trying to stay ahead of that. I'm sure. Talk to me about what you feel about like the UFC. Like, can you give me, because that was the last question. Like, he's been with the UFC for 14 years. Does he feel like it's an even playing field? Obviously, it's your semi-employer, but like, do you think all around? Can you give us any input? Like all around, has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Somebody asked me, can you ask him if it's hard for him to be with the UFC if there's other organizations that might pay more?
Pay more, of course. Yeah, I always get asked that question, and yeah, it is. It's difficult because I know I can go to another promotion like PFL and probably win $1 million tournament, but be stuck with PFL. But unfortunately, there's those 3 letters that everybody holds dear to their heart, and it's UFC. That just the world is just everywhere. You're a world champion when you're a UFC world champion, not a Bellator world champion, not a PFL world champion. And those guys are great. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think Jason's the best welterweight in the world.
I think Jason could definitely step up to the plate.
He could easily win in the UFC. Not easily, but I think he could win a title in the.
He's definitely UFC material.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And there's plenty of guys that leave the organization and come to that. So it's definitely tough, but at the same time, 14 years. I'm in it for the long haul. I guess I'm working to where I need to make it pay off. I need to make it pay off. It's not going to be beneficial for me to jump ship and leave to go to some other organization at this moment. The money won't be that drastically different at this point. You know,
Yeah, the other side of it too that a lot of people don't take into consideration is you can have the best show on television, but if it's not on a great network, it's not going to get the exposure.
yeah,
Right?
exactly. And that's what it is, exposure.
Exposure.
UFC.
I mean, a lot of good opportunities that have probably come from that. I know that they have. What changes do you see coming down the road for like these new fighters? Like what have you? I mean, it's definitely gotten a lot more. Before it was like, this guy's great at jits, this guy's great at Dutch boxing, this guy's great at whatever. And now it's like everyone's pretty damn good at everything. And on top of that, they're freaking athletes. Mm-hmm. And that's anything evolves. You know, my business has evolved crazy too. And it has changed so much since I've been in it over 15 years. What do you see like the next big things happening inside that world? I know they're doing like slap boxing now. Are you going to start that?
Slap boxing, fucking midget wrestling now is a thing. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, it's like a whole midget
Does UFC
league.
own that?
No, I don't think so. But the Barstools guy was in the.
They own
arena.
the slap. He owns slap boxing.
The slap boxing thing. That's the funniest thing on TV.
Have you watched it?
Yeah, it's hilarious.
The slap boxing.
Yeah, and the show, the TV show, they did like an Ultimate Fighter house on this. You know that, right?
I don't watch TV that much. So.
Yeah, I've like, it's hilarious.
But there's probably some pretty heavy trauma from that.
Nothing but trauma. And the funny thing to me is, okay, for one,
and he knows all about trauma.
Yeah,
he inflicts it and takes it.
For one, they drug test and some dude popped and got he couldn't slap.
They drug test for slap boxing.
And
that's fucking
cocaine came up in his system, and they said no. Like I think you can
be on steroids.
Yeah, and like that makes no sense. Like so, they said he couldn't do it, but like they train. Like they're actually going to fight. Like they talk about like they're fighters, and
so they train for this. Let me just ask you this: so when you spar, like this is from experience. I might be wrong, but during your training camp, when you spar, you get after it fucking hard as shit. I know. I've seen it. I know it. Right? You still don't get hit that much. You get hit, but like you don't get hit that much because you're a seasoned guy. How the hell do they train? Like, what do they like? How do they train for that?
See, I don't think they train getting slapped. I think they just train like.
What are they
techniques.
slapping? They're like slapping like
pads and shit. Like I've seen it. Just watch like the first episode, bro. I promise you.
Oh jeez, we're gonna put a link to this.
But in their defense, like I would never do it. Like no way, you're not like just slapping me and. No, that's fucking crazy.
I'm gonna punch you back.
Some of these dudes are huge, like the heavyweights. Like these dudes, like no. Is it
weight class?
Yeah, there's a weight class, and some of these like big, like Samoan guys. There's a guy from Springfield, Missouri, the place where I started fighting, like my fight camp. It's like I was like, I gotta find this guy and have him on my podcast or something, and just meet him just because we're in the same town. And he smacks the shit out of people. Like he's one of their big stars too.
Jesus, I mean that goes back to this one other question I had. I kind of know the answer to it. I'm going to give you my input, but one of my employees asked me. He said, "What do you think the trauma difference is between?" Can you ask him what do you think the trauma difference is between boxing and MMA, and with 4-ounce gloves versus like was it 16 or 18s?
No, I think the little guys do like 12s or 14s or something.
And my analogy is I'd rather get knocked the fuck out than punched in the face 650 times in a boxing round. It's like, do you want to just get like, you want someone just to open a car door and knock you out, or do you want to sit against this wall and pound your head against it for hours and hours and take that?
I think it's night and day. I think the damage.
Because that was the biggest thing when the UFC started was how much trauma that you guys were going to take and how they wanted to fight against that. So go on.
See, our trauma comes from training. Like that's where all our trauma comes from. Like we beat our body up. I think our training's a little harder than boxing training, even though they run probably a lot more body work. But we have to do everything. We have to train 3 or 4 different disciplines of martial arts. Plus, you got to do weights and conditioning and just day in, day out. But just like you said it, I mean, no, it's easy. You're going to either sit there for 12 rounds and get hit what? Just like you said, 300 times maybe? Yeah, or you get hit hard once in a UFC fight and maybe you get hit again and then the fight's over. Somebody's getting up. So your brain's definitely not getting as much damage. And the surface of a boxing glove compared to our gloves. You think about it, there's more surface area on a boxing glove, so there's more damage going to a head on a punch.
Yeah. So. Even though there's not as much energy behind the punch, there's a lot more punches in a bigger, vast area.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, what, 2-minute rounds is that what they do? 2-3-minute rounds?
But there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
They used to do unlimited. Like back in the day.
Well, in the UFC.
You remember that? No, not in the UFC. In boxing,
yeah.
Like, yeah, they used to be.
Yeah, it's wild. The amount of and I also think this too, right? So if you train jiu-jitsu and you're good, decent, you kickbox and you're good, you're decent. Put it this way, if you're a UFC fighter, you're probably pretty good at everything, really good at 1 or 2 things out of those. That's also something that is going to keep your brain super stimulated. Like your brain is working really hard. Your brain is working really hard to, like, when you're rolling and doing jiu-jitsu, when you're Dutch kickboxing, counterpunching, you're really thinking a lot more. It probably keeps you a little bit more stimulated too, being a UFC fighter with all. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from being a good boxer, because a good boxer is, in my opinion, a lethal weapon. But at the same time, like I feel like there's definitely a lot more trauma, especially with their sparring too. That they're just getting punched in the face.
Yeah, that's all they're doing. Yeah, and the thing is, but UFC fighters or MMA fighters typically don't wear headgear that much. I mean, I myself don't wear it.
I've seen that before.
It's just in the fucking way. Gets hot, it's bothering. And I think your defense is better without it. Yeah, you're gonna see more. See more people with headgear. They tend to get hit and take punches. That they shouldn't. So.
Well, all right, man. Well, listen. The last thing I wanted to close up with is we are all going to be rooting for you on February 10th. Got a fight at the Apex. I am too poor to be able to afford this fight. It's sold out. It's like $4,000 a ticket because it's Super Bowl weekend.
Super Bowl weekend.
And I'm not going to be able to be there. And but I will be there in spirit. And then the following, and then there's a 2-week break, and then we will be having the Military Appreciation Weekend that MJ supports every year. He comes and does some kickboxing courses and jits with us and hangs out and has a good time. This year's special, it's Mel Chansey and Brent's birthday this year during the event, so we're gonna have a blast that weekend. And thanks for all your support, dude. Core really supports you. I know we didn't really discuss too much there, but as soon as I told people that you were coming on, I was getting hammered by questions. So they're going to be very excited to hear these answers. And man, we really pray for you. This fight's going to go real well, and keep up the hard work. You are inspiring to all of us, especially us old men over here.
Nice. Thank you. I'm pushing age myself too, but it's a mind thing. I've been telling people I'm young. You're 37. You're fucking old. It's like, no, trust me.
You want to fight?
24.
You want to fight?
Yeah. I'm like 24. But yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, and I definitely can't wait to get out for a Military Appreciation Weekend.
All right, man. Thanks so much. Much love, guys. Thank you so much for your support and loyalty to Core Medical Group, and be sure to tune into this fight, guys, and support Michael Johnson, one of the greatest. Thanks so much.